Listen, man, call me Sonic the way I advanced into your household without permission. Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Kids. Today, and only today, we are here, that's right, for the Sonic Advance Retrospective, all right? This is my first time doing one of these, all right? So please bear with me, all right? Deal with my stupidness and a bit of my sporadic thinking with all this. But yeah, I thought it'd be time for me to drop one of these. You know, I'm a pretty knowledgeable dude with the games I like, so I figure, you know what? Let's get right into this style of video because I want to try it more. I want to do more stuff that's, you know, evergreen, as I like to say, you know, that just will last you forever. You can watch it whenever you want. I figured I would cover the Sonic Advance series. I feel like there's just been a lot of talk about Sonic Advance in general due to the fact that, you know, we just had Sonic Origins last year. You know, we're getting a lot of GBA collections lately, whether it become, you know, the Mega Man Battle Network collection or even, you know, Castlevania stuff. And now we have Game Boy Advance games on Nintendo Switch Online. So it feels like now more than ever, it feels like it's time for Sega to capitalize and bring back Sonic Advance. Now, I went ahead and played the trilogy of games on, you know, a totally legitimate Game Boy, and I thought, you know what, why not give my thoughts on each of the games, you know, their flaws, their positives, and everything, and how they age. You know, let me take you back in time a little bit. Sonic Advance is actually kind of a big deal because it's actually the first Sonic game to ever appear on a Nintendo console, right? Obviously, you all know the war in the 90s. We're not going to get into all that, right? But obviously, this was a big moment, you know, Sonic finally being like, hey, fuck it, we just gotta go on Nintendo. We're breaching that territory right then. There we have Sonic Advance developed by Dimps and Sonic Team, right? A 2D era for Sonic, a new 2D era for Sonic, which again, a big deal. You know, we're going into a new pixel art style. You know, we're getting into GBA era, and they're like, and they went with an entire trilogy, and also like they branded it after the Game Boy. I mean, it's called Game Boy, you know, Game Boy Advance, Sonic Advance, and it's just like, it's fascinating to see like that this even happened in the first place. But I'm just happy it did, man, because here we go. Let's get right into it. Also, a final note is just to remember that I've tried to play these games sort of casually, just in a sense so that you kind of understand how like an average person would enjoy playing them today. You know, instead of going for the crazy, I'm not here to give you like, here's everything 100% with a full combo of every route. I'm gonna tell you how nice it is to play, how casual, how fun it is. All right, I'm gonna get right into it right now. Sonic Advance 1. Here the journey begins, right? A new look for Sonic, right? This is our first time sort of seeing modern Sonic in a 2D style, right? Obviously, you have the classic games, and that is very distinguishably classic Sonic, right? But you have the darker blue of Sonic that definitely fits here, and you can definitely see what's going on, and they're trying to infuse the modern style of Sonic with platforming. And with this game, what's really cool is, you know, you get a few extra modes in there. You get a little tiny Chao Garden, you get your time attacks and everything. But what's awesome in these games is you get multiple playable characters, much like you did back in the day, you know, with Tails and Knuckles. But this time around, actually, you have a playable Amy, which I find is super cute, right? She's got a little hammer, you know, she's got a little dash. She's just a fun little extra. But aside from that, you know, Knuckles plays the way you would think, Tails plays the way you think, and of course, Sonic plays the way you would think with, you know, his nice little insta shield and his nice dashes and everything. Let's talk about the sprites, right? The thing about GBA sprites is they age so well, and this game is no different. Jumping back into Sonic Advance 1, there's something so timeless about the Game Boy Advance sprite work where they just look so good, right? Especially Sonic's model, you know, it's almost like, it's weird that they so well translated modern Sonic into 2D, because they could have just gone with a classic Sonic on handheld, but seeing the sprites in there, seeing like the chill music vibe that they've got, like, I don't know, it felt like they found a way to compact modern Sonic's energy into a 2D game, and I really appreciate that. The controls are also very simple in this game. You know, it is just your dash, you know, you've got your little insta shield, you got some fun movement options. You've also got, you know, some elements from the past games, and I think that shines the most in Sonic Advance 1. Sonic Advance 1 to me feels like the most like the classic games, and what I mean by that is you're gonna see how I'm gonna talk about each of the zones and sort of some of the different level aspects where it's very similar to the OG style of games but with modern Sonic. Now for Sonic Advance 1, I found the level design to be the very simplistic style that I think they needed for the first time around. You know, not get too crazy with it, but you know, you start with Neo Green Hill Zone. Now Neo Green Hill Zone, obviously it's what you expect, it's Green Hill Zone, but what I really like about it is it sort of has like a beach vibe to it. You know, you can tell, like, you know, it's got this sort of bright background, it's got a bit of a, you know, a nice aesthetic. There's some cool water platforms that pop up with some dope effects in there, and I just feel like the vibe of it is really good. Obviously it's a very simple layout. You know, you got your top paths, your bottom paths, you got your little jumps, you got some curves. It does introduce grind rails, which is fire. I mean, I love seeing grind rails in Sonic, and obviously seeing them introduced in the 2D games, which I think would be the first first time they were in a 2D game, because in the original trilogy, they weren't there. But yeah, seeing some grind rail action there. Neo Green Hill Zone, very basically designed, very nice. Now you get the Secret Base Zone. Now Secret Base actually starts really cool, where you're sort of outside of the base, and that's like a really cool level look, you know, but then you go into the base and it sort of loses a bit of that luster. But what I will say is this feels like essentially what the chemical plant equivalent to the stage would be, you know, where you're going into pipes that are teleporting you around. You've got some cool, you know, platforming challenges. It does focus a bit more, you know, on better jumps as opposed to big momentum speed. But again, very fun stage, you know, gets the job done. You get an Act 1 and Act 2, and I just think like the design of it is like really effective. It's not as much speed based as it is platform based, but you get some good moments in there to feel that Sonic speed. You have Casino Paradise in there, which I love. Casino Paradise, I think this one, to me, what was so awesome about it is, unlike other typical Sonic casino levels, this almost felt a bit more like an amusement park. You know, you have your pins that you're running around, you got these things that you're swinging around going through the level with, you got your jumps, you got your mega movement, you know, options, you know, you got your super speed. Like, I just loved this level from the backgrounds too. Like, it's so bright and so like well done. It's just, there's something about this level that like stood out the most to me in the game. So like, shout out to Casino Paradise. I really love this. But again, you're seeing this pattern, right? A lot of these feel like the classics, but a bit more modernized. You get Ice Mountain Zone, which I would say, you know, is the close to Ice Cap Zone. You know, you get some underwater segments in here. You get your typical, you know, snow area stuff. You got the platforms that you stand on, and nothing too crazy about this level. But again, the continuous, you know, thing about Sonic Advance 1 is just the level design is just very simple and clean in there. But yeah, I like this level. Nothing stands out too much about it, but it's fun. You then get Angel Island Zone. Shout out to my boy Knuckles, big chilling out there. It's cool to actually be on Angel Island, but there's something about this one that I really like. You know, it's got a good sense of platforming. It does start to show a little bit of Dimps' flair in there, which, you know, has a bit of like these closed off sections, but these open areas that you can phone. But yeah, this level does feel a little claustrophobic. There's times where, you know, you have spikes going up and down, you're stuck between two walls, and there's not much space. But again, for the most part, fun level. You have those little rotating platforms that you can run on, jump to the next one. So they do a good job of keeping things fresh, and the levels don't drag on too much, which is something I really appreciate about just the level design in Advance. The levels don't feel like they take too long, and it's only 2 acts basically besides the boss fight. Now, what I will say is fuck Egg Rocket Zone. All right, don't talk to me. All right, this is the beginning of what Dimps is known for, which is the random bottomless pits, right? There's these platforms that you go over where there's bottomless pits, right? It has so many random areas. The fact that I can get lost in this level is weird. There's moments where I felt like I was walking around the same area, running around the same area over and over. And I know part of it is definitely a skill issue on my part, but I can tell you that typically I do not get lost in a Sonic level, and this one just was kind of to me. I'm not a big fan of this one, okay? It drove me a little bit crazy, just a little bit, right? But I had a solid time with it. Thought it was an okay level, but I don't like it. I changed my mind. Cosmic Angel Zone, you know what? I give it to you. You got a cool aesthetic going on in the background here. You got some fun platforming segments. You're sort of an amalgamation of what the game is built up to. You know, you're giving me everything. You're giving me my loops, my boost pads. You're giving me my little platforming segments, my spikes in there. But again, continuing the theme of this game where they don't really stray too far from what you expect from Sonic. You know, they really stayed true to what the original trilogy did and sort of just did more of that. And then X Zone, which is, you know, the final level of the game, which is where you fight all the bosses again. And I gotta get into the bosses, trust me. That's gonna be the next segment we talk about here. I really like Sonic Advance 1's bosses. There's something about them that's really good because mostly, like I said, they stayed true to the classic form where you are basically mainly on one screen for the most part. You can use your Insta Shield to get hits on Eggman, and they're all just, you know, little contraptions that he's built, you know, over I don't know how many years it's been, but yeah, he's just built all these different robots, and they've got, you know, some cool attributes to him. For example, the first one boss is very akin to one of the Sonic 2 bosses, but he's got a hammer, he's going really quickly. Second boss has him just jumping around and you just get some easy hits on him. An annoying water boss, because you gotta have one of those in Sonic always. I will say though, fighting whatever version of Knuckles is going on here, absolutely fire. I like this idea. I like rival fights in Sonic games, and even if it's not the craziest thing and you're just getting some easy hits, I like it. I'm into it. You sort of get the gist of it. And once you get to the end of the game, like I said, the last zone, which is the X Zone, is you just fighting all the bosses. And because they're fairly simple, it never felt like a chore to refight all of them. You know, you can just sort of get into it pretty easily, enjoy yourself, get some easy hits, get your rings back if you get hit and all that. The Super Sonic fight is also akin to the old games where you're sort of just ramming into Eggman as Super Sonic. The special stages aren't anything too crazy either. You're just kind of on a snowboard going down trying to get some rings. They are hell on earth. Did I beat them all? Absolutely not. I would never put myself through that. But But for those who want to do it, good luck, and I wish you, you know, everything, soldier. And of course, it's a Sonic game, so what would it be if you weren't talking a little bit about that music? The composers this time around were Tatsuyuki Maeda and Yutaka Minobu, which I don't really know exactly how much they've done for the series. For the most part, I felt like this soundtrack wasn't like legendary like a lot of Sonic soundtracks end up being, but it's a very fun soundtrack. It feels like you're bopping your head to a lot of these beats. Neo Green Hill Zone has a vibe to it. Casino Paradise got a very goofy vibe to it, but again, enjoyable track. I like it. Ice Mountain, though, immaculate. You guys have probably heard this in a lot of background videos. I'm all for whatever's going on in this zone. Absolutely. Angel Island, bro. Pull up. Okay. Egg Rockets is also really fucking good. Again, it's a Sonic soundtrack. Ooh, okay. Shout out to Egg Rocket. It's a Sonic game. You expect a nice OST and you definitely get one, but nothing too legendary, I would say. And yeah, that's really it for Sonic Advance 1. It really is interesting with this game, right? I had a lot of fun with this one. You know, going back and playing it is super fun. I tried out the other characters. They're fun to go as, but I felt like this game played it very safe, but I don't mind that. You know, it's one of those games where it's not even that long. I think the runtime for you to, you know, casually play through would be about 2-ish hours. You definitely get some cool replay value out of it, but for the most part, I liked it. You know, it just felt like it was ushering this new era, and there's something nostalgic about it. Obviously, I grew up with it, but there's something about the feel of it that's really good, and it's one of those games that I will say I think you would enjoy it more on an emulator where you could do a little bit of save state, you know, stuff, or hopefully some rewinds on GBA, because again, some of those bottomless pits later on can be a little bit annoying, but for the most part, I felt like this game was very fair. You know, it's a very simple and safe Sonic game in a lot of ways, but it's fun. If it's fun and enjoyable, I like Sonic Advance 1. You get a thumbs up from me, buddy. I like you. Now I'm gonna tell you off the bat, Sonic Advance 2, my favorite of these three games. Right away, you are hit with, you know, more expression from the start of a stage, you know, to more movement options right away. You can do this little kick in the air where Sonic gets a little spin kick in the air if you press the R button. You've also get like an extra jump if you press R upwards. You know, you get a little attack button. It felt like they were expanding the movement options, and not just that, they were starting to flex that pixel art style a little bit. You know, there's some more fun looks for the characters, especially Cream. When you play as Cream and she's just waving at you on a grind rail, I find that adorable. And also, again, the introduction of Cream. I mean, finally, Cream joining the series. Very cute character. She can attack with a little Chow buddy. Knuckles and Tails are also in there. Knuckles gets some few punch attacks. You can do an upward, you know, uppercut, sort of like a Shoryuken. Tails is Tails. He gets a little swing kick, but I feel like by this point, you would just use Cream in the game. I mean, Cream is pretty much, you know, better at Tails in this game because she's got a little Chow that attacks and can fuck up a lot of fights for you. But like I said, this game starts to introduce its own identity. It starts to introduce its own mechanics, and there's something about the vibe of it that starts to grow on you. And one thing you're gonna hear from me a lot with Sonic Advance 2 is flow. I felt like there was such a good state of flow and movement options in the game, and that's what kept it so enjoyable for me. Now let's get right into it, the levels and level design. So we start with Leaf Forest. Again, this game's, you know, version of Green Hill Zone or whatever the hell, and again, right away, just giving you fun movement options. Very simple stage to get into, very good one. I like it. I'm into it. You get some crazy fun loops in the level, right? You get some fun grind rail action going on in the level. You get some fun bounces, and of course, a lot of you recognize this level from that Sonic Flash game we all grew up with. But yeah, man, just right away, it just felt like the game was offering more speed for you, and because of those air options for Sonic, it felt like you could just get to higher platforms easier, and I really like that about it. Next up, you get the Hot Crater, which again, right, this is supposed to be sort of, you know, chemical area of the game, but I love this level. Like I said, it doesn't feel frustrating at all. You get a lot of fun loops, and like I said, you get that nice feel of momentum with Sonic in this one. You got the pipes that send you to different locations. You've got fun grind rails. You've got a lot, like I said, loop heavy level, definitely, but it emphasizes the grind rails, which I love. The grind rails, man. You've got these sticks that Sonic can grab to loop on to give him extra speed. It's just, I feel like this level in general just gives you a lot of style points, and that's what stood out to me. And the aesthetic of it is kind of cool. It's kind of cool having a lava area as the second level as opposed to, you know, being, you know, one of the last ones. I really just appreciated that about this game. Also, I forgot to mention the movement. Sonic gets like an afterglow when he runs so fast, and I find that fucking awesome. I wish they would bring that back, and they've sort of brought it back. They added a little bit in Sonic Lost World, but I love the after image effect when Sonic goes super fast. Please have that more. And then, of course, the next level, Music Planet, one of the most iconic levels to Sonic Advance. I feel like when you talk about Sonic Advance, this is like the aesthetic that shows up up right away. And everything about this level stands out, right? It's an entirely musical based levels. You know, you're walking on instruments and piano pieces. The springs are replaced with drums. You've got grind rails that are switching colors. You're going into pipes that look like, you know, trombones and whatever the hell you want to call them. But yeah, it's just everything about this level is aesthetically pleasing. You know, you jump on these little music notes. It's just, they did such a good job with giving this level its own identity and its own style. And again, keeping the gameplay flow going. You know, nothing really stops you in this level. There are a few platforming segments in it, obviously, but everything about it sort of keeps your movement going and almost makes you go with the beat and the rhythm and style of it. And again, you get Sonic's cool little sprite animations of him twirling around, jumping around. It's just so cool. I love so much about this level. And again, I think the best in the game. Shout out to Music Plant. Oh, Ice Paradise, bro. Ice Paradise, dude. What an awesome snow level. First of all, you get this beautiful city in the background where you see like these city skylights, but you also just get a fun ice level because not only are you know going at, you know, Sonic speeds through and you're getting a lot of momentum base, there's no water really in it. You get these cool swings you can go on. You get some fun half pipes in there, some good grind rails, and everything about this just is fun to me. And again, it's not just about how it plays, it's about the look of it accompanying it and doing a good job of making you feel cool, man. And Sonic does a cute little slide when he's on ice. I just love it. I love how you add that little personal charm to the level with its unique gameplay element. And that's what I feel like stands out a lot about Sonic Advance 2 in general, is that each level is sort of starting to have its own identity, as opposed to Sonic Advance 1, where it was like, here's what you expect from the originals, but modernized a bit. Next up is Sky Canyon. Now, granted, a lot of times I'm not a big fan of the sky levels in Sonic games, but man, this one did such a good job of standing out and being fun. First of all, you get these like clouds on the bottom, sort of giving you the feeling that you're in the air, but you're also, you know, you're using these wind things to push you onto different platforms. You have literal wind blocking your way that you could run towards to give yourself max speed with Sonic. And this level does have a few bottomless pits, but for the most part, you have a lot of ways to stay on the top side of the platforms. And again, it keeps your speed and momentum going, which I love that. As long as you're encouraging me to move fast in a Sonic game with a lot of moments where, you know, I still do have to platform, I like that. But just make me feel like I'm on a thrill ride, and that's what this level did for me. And then there's the Techno Base. Now, I actually really like Techno Base, right? It is a bit more of a platformer heavy stage, but the aesthetic of it is really cool. Could it give you a seizure? Probably. I do feel like when you jump to a lot of the higher platforms in this level, there's always something that sneaks up on you, whether it's a spring or an enemy or something, which I'm never a fan of that in Sonic. I hate when, you know, I jump towards something I couldn't see, an enemy hits me, and I'm just trying to climb up endlessly. But for the most part, level gave me, again, a good sense of speed. Didn't feel like it was blocking me too much, and I still thought it was very fun. And then you get Egg Utopia, which Egg Utopia to me was really cool because you have this mix of an aesthetic of, you know, an Eggman base, which like mixed with like seeing that you're in space. I really love that. I like when the levels, you know, show you like that you're going in and outside of an area. I think that really stands out a lot in 2D games because, yeah, there's something about knowing you're in two places at once that's kind of cool. But not just that, right? I felt like this level was really cool because it has an anti-gravity mechanic, but the anti-gravity mechanic never feels annoying. You know, it feels like, you know, when you swap, you know, sides, whether you're going upwards or downwards, that you still feel like, you know, you're following a good directional flow, and then the game is guiding you forward. It doesn't feel like it's confusing your path or taking you somewhere you don't know where to go, and it doesn't feel too gimmicky. You get some cool grind rails in there too, and again, I felt like for a final level, this was not as frustrating as they usually are. I always find the last Sonic levels before Eggman to be very frustrating, but it felt like this one, again, respected that, hey, you're towards the end. Let's make it sure you're having a good time in there and not hating your life. You also got some stripper poles in there, just again, keeping the dynamicness of the levels with introducing new mechanics and things that make each zone stand out. And then you get to Egg Utopia, which is when you fight all the bosses, and that's when we have to talk about the bosses. Now, this is the one thing I was not looking forward to with Sonic Advance 2, where, wow, I was shocked at how bad the bosses are in this game and how much they ruined the flow of what I thought was an incredible game in terms of level design. So what they did with this game is every boss is a runner. You're always running during a boss fight. Now, the good thing about them is there's endless amount of rings. You know, whenever you get hit, if you're a little patient, there's going to be rings. But let me tell you, these are are some of the most infuriating bosses in a Sonic game. Like, even playing on, dude, I was playing this on an emulator and I was save stating the shit out of shit, because if I had to restart levels because I kept getting 0 lives from this, I would have lost my mind. And like, oh my god, even from the first level, right, it's just a little weird. You can barely see Eggman. You're trying to dodge this hammer, right? But again, it's not too bad at first. You're like, okay, whatever, fine, this was challenging, it was fun, I like it, I'll move on. You get to the second boss and he's shooting this cannon, and again, it's the same idea. You're just chasing after him and he's shooting you obnoxiously. There's a hitbox on the explosion. You just got to keep doing this over and over. Again, not frustrating yet, a little annoying, but again, not frustrating yet. Then for Music Plant, you get to boss 2, which again, I honestly think out of all of these is probably the best one. You know, I think these platforms are just, you know, going upwards. You just have to time when Sonic's going on them. I didn't mind this one as much. I thought for one of the runner levels, this was solid. Even if I was getting hit, I felt like this one was fair and a good idea. Ice Paradise's boss though, fuck you. Like, dude, this thing sucks. All right, you're running as Sonic. There's this platform that Eggman has that that constantly rotates up and off that you can't, you know, hit him unless you jump on. There's this explosive that keeps hitting the ground and it has the biggest hitbox in gaming history, and you have to hit him so many times and it's so frustrating, bro. It's so, oh my god, is it ass. Oh, the Sky Canyon one. Let me tell you how much fucking time I spent fighting this stupid boss because of this hand. This hand detects where like Sonic is running and aims at you constantly and can insta-kill you, and it's like such a you Knuckles, you shouldn't have been freed. I should have let you rot in there for fighting that fucking hand boss. That was I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. You get the gist of it. This idea was, I get it on paper, it's to keep Sonic moving during a fight. I like that idea, and again, in some cases it was fun, but man, getting to that final zone, oh my god, when you get to the XX Rush zone and you have to fight all of them, I was like, this is fucking psychotic, which is crazy because the final boss ends up just being a normal boss, right, where it's just a little egg robot. You hit the arms over and over, you know, there's a little laser and that's it, right? It's a very normal, tame finale boss, which is like, why could I have more of those? But yeah, game ends. Each character has their own little ending screen for this, but it does look really raw. I do appreciate what they were doing here. You land, you get some good pixel art, you hang out with the gang, you know, you get a little small thank you for playing. Each character gets one of these and it's nice. Super Sonic Fight is also lame in this one. It's the same thing as the originals. You just bash into a wall over and over and over. The special stages are basically like the ones in Sonic CD, and again, they can get hella frustrating later on, but early on they're pretty fun. Again, not too awful, but a bitch to even get to. You need like all these coins. It's not fun. But hey, you get to play as Cream the Rabbit, so what are you complaining about? I will say the Sonic Advance 2 soundtrack is pretty fire. You know, the Leaf Forest song is great. Hot Craters is really dope too. It feels like they go a bit more grandiose with the OST in this game as opposed to the first game where they felt like, you know, some nice bops. Ooh. Shout out to Music Plant though. Again, just a nice vibe. A nice vibe. I see what you're going with. I like it. I like it. Ice Paradise though? Oh, okay. Talk to me, bro. Talk to me, please. But yeah, everything about the Sonic Advance 2 OST just felt grander to me. It felt more dynamic. It felt more fun. And I love it way more. I would go back and listen to Sonic Advance 2's OST way more than I ever would the first games. But yeah, that's really it for Sonic Advance 2. Again, a game that I thought the level design was awesome. I love this game. I felt like this is where you really get to see modern Sonic style emphasized more. You get the introduction of Cream, and the game feels so fun, man. I loved every zone. Playing every zone was awesome, but man, the boss fights definitely drag it down because I was having such a good experience with every level, and then getting to the boss and just being annoyed by it definitely sucks. But I would still say this game, out of all of them, the best level design, the most consistent. And again, we're gonna get to the next game here, Sonic Advance 3. The end of the Advance trilogy as we know it. You know, the finale, we never get another one of these. Now technically we get Sonic Rush in the future, but that's a whole different series for another day. But Sonic Advance 3, I was so excited to get into this one because, you know, this is the one you always see people sharing clips of, you know, seeing the different character dynamics. I haven't also fully played these games in forever, so going back to them was really fun. But yeah, Sonic Advance 3, I really enjoyed this one. I don't think it stands out the most, and you're gonna see why, but yeah, I think this one very dope. Now, Sonic Advance 3, the grandiose finale to the Sonic Advance trilogy. And I think in terms of presentation, this one again kills it, right? They have mastered, you know, the pixel art on the GBA. You get these cool animations between the different characters. You get them interacting in fun ways during segments. And a big part of this game, obviously the gimmick of this game, is that you can choose different partners. And I thought this was really fun. So you have all the same movement options from Sonic Advance 2, but this time around, you have 2 different abilities you can access by playing with the different partners. partner characters. So when you're Sonic and Tails, you can use Sonic, you know, to fly around with Tails, or you can get a little bounce in the environment with him. If you're playing with Knuckles, you can actually use him to glide around the area, or you could use him, you know, to be tossed around and break certain walls. You could play as Amy, and when you use Sonic as a partner, she gets a giant boost. And just there's these cool character combos you get in there that I thought were such a unique idea. And again, you just have the whole cast playable here. The pixel art stands out. Everything about the presentation here to me is 10 out of 10. You know, they've nailed it, they've understood the formula, and they're here. Now, before we get into the level design, interesting enough is that this game actually has a hub world this time around. They opt for the hub world style where you can go to the different levels. To be honest with you, I'm not really a big fan of the hub world, right? Not because I don't think hub worlds are cool, right? Or that, you know, you shouldn't, what's called, have them in 2D games, but I felt like it sort of just stopped my experience because I always felt like I was just looking for, hey, where's the second or third level, as opposed to just getting to them. Now, I know it's because you can unlock the keys to go to, you know, the levels to get, you know, the Chaos Emeralds and stuff, but I still think, like, for the most part, not too big of a fan of having a hub world in here. I would have much rather just jump into the level, but again, not too big of a deal. They're fun to just sort of walk around. They're sort of like an extra platforming challenge in some ways, but there were times where I was like, okay, I want to get to the second level. Where is it? But of course, before we talk about the second level, we gotta talk about the first one and the level design in general. We start with Route 99 with this game, and man, this one starts off strong. I find this one is actually probably the first or second best one in the game because, again, it focuses on giving you a sense of speed, using a lot of, you know, the movement options that Sonic's got, and just gives you that constant feeling of momentum and speed that we all come to love from the series. I think this one is super fun, great way to start it, and again, not a green hill, which is a big deal, right? We finally get something that is completely aesthetically, oh, hey, you know what would be clever? If instead of putting Green Hill Zone Act 1, let's bait them by putting it as the second zone in the game. And man, let me tell you, this level sucks, right? Because, you know, I'm used to Green Hill being the fun platforming zone, but this one has so many, first of all, I got lost in this level sometimes, which again is a really weird thing to happen, right? But not just that, it just feels like this one has a lot of ways that stop you from going forward. It feels like there's a lot of momentum stoppers, which is weird to me. A lot of more slow-paced platforming movements. Now, I think a big part of why a lot of these levels try to do this is because they intend for you to use the different partners' abilities, but I feel like when I'm playing a Sonic game, even though I have these partners' abilities, I still want to just be able to freely explore the environment. I'm already in a level where there's bottomless pits. I'm in a level where, you know, there's random areas I can't find where to go, and it's not great. Also, I will say this game having 3 acts is really cool because, again, you're getting more bang for your buck, but in some ways, you know, it kind of makes some of these levels a little too long where you're like, okay, like I just would rather have the 2 acts and my boss fight. But hey, you know, not all of them are bad apples because the next one, yeah, no, fuck this level. The third zone in the game is ocean based, and again, just another one that is just frustrating, right? You get the return of what's called those annoying sand things that you climb through with Sonic. You get stupid things that can crush you. You get spikes everywhere. Just a lot of momentum stoppers, man. And it's so lame. I'm so disappointed by it. And again, like I said, you can use the partners, but sometimes you don't really know exactly what you're supposed to do with the partners or which one is optimal for the scenario, and you're kind of just going about. And like I said, very slow pace level, more focus on platforming, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like the platforming here isn't even that fun. You're just sort of like going around this level and you're just bashing into things and just running into things. It's not crazy. Also, random tangent, but the hub worlds have these little mini games you can do, which are really cute. I like the little mini games. But yeah, no, absolutely not a fan of Ocean Base. I mean, if it's supposed to be a sequel to Oil Ocean, like, God, Oil Ocean isn't even a good stage in the first place, so why are we making more of it? And not only that, what's even worse in the later acts of Ocean Base, you literally get water segments. So you're getting all the things that just do not work well with Sonic and 11. I'm so sad, bro. Okay, I found a cure to my depression. Welcome to the Toy Kingdom Zone. I am so happy that this zone exists because this, by far, the best zone in the game. Absolutely. Again, just like the music level in Sonic Advance 2, you get a world that is completely enamored by its aesthetic. You know, it is fitting the Toy Kingdom style. You know, you got these little toy soldiers going on. There's little platforms you go on that are these 2, you know, little toys out here. You got springs that are just like toys. You got fun little ramps that are like look like not roller coasters, but they look a little bit, you know, like merry-go-rounds. It's just, it fits the style and aesthetic so well, and it plays with it. And you got like a nice background with these balloons going on. You got these rockets you can use to platform higher. Like it leans into the Toy Kingdom. You got little pandas you can roll around. Look at Sonic. Look at him. Look at him. There's slides. Everything about Toy Kingdom to me is exactly what I wanted more of, that I loved from Sonic Advance 2, which is a stage having a fun gimmick that makes movement more fun. I felt like that's what this stage did for me. The next zone though, Twinkle Zone, again, kind of a mixed bag, right? But this level just, you know, a lot of water, has a cool little minecart, which is kind of fire. You got some nice platforming segments. There's a lot of ways to actually stay out of the water, and it's got this fun little platform you can hold down to go upwards on. But yeah, nothing stands out about this level. It's just a typical ice water level. You know, you're fighting for your life underwater sometimes, you know, running out of air, but it's just kind of a level, you know, it's just kind of a level. You play, you get through, you're like, okay, this wasn't too frustrating, this didn't stand out to me too much. And again, water levels in Sonic, not necessarily the best thing ever. Next up, Cybertruck. I like this level. Again, it's a very platforming focused level. You got these little platforms you go on, you know, that take you to different sides, and you go to another one, and they're just little fun things. You got the rotating platforms that you've seen in the past. The levels also don't drag on too long. You get some fun speed segments in there. You got fun ropes you can go on. You got these platforms that push you to different areas. It's like, it's a fun zone overall. Nothing too crazy about it. I will say again, just a lot of slow pace moments though, like when you're on these platforms, you're just waiting to get to somewhere, which again, like, that's not what I want to do in a Sonic game. I don't want to stand around, you know. I want to be able to platform, I want to jump at the right times, you know, keep my momentum going and all that. The next level, you got Chaos Angel, which is a cool name for a stage. I thought this was actually kind of fun, you know. I felt like it gave you a lot of options, you know, for fast moving moments. I did feel like Tails is the best partner to have here, just so you can go to higher platforms. But again, a lot of bottomless pits here. Also, the environment itself isn't really that satisfying. It's sort of just like pillars. A lot of moment-to-moment platforming instead of emphasizing momentum. And that's, you know, kind of a consistent theme you're seeing with the level design here. I feel like they were trying to go for a more focus on platforming and maybe utilizing the partners a bit more. But I do think this level is still really fun. I think it does have a lot of cool loops and a lot of cool moments that stand out to, you know, it goes inwards and outwards of a cave, which I think is really cool. And yeah, I like it. It does have a few puzzly kind of elements, so, you know, you're trying to figure out the right way. But again, I don't really mind that too much if it's well done. But again, sometimes I didn't know where to go, and it's just darn. Actually, you know what? I just remembered that the third level is just a platform you stand on the entire day. You know what? No. Fuck this level. I'm so upset. What happened, man? Take me back to Advance 2. It's okay though, because at least in this game, the final boss doesn't make you fight all the bosses in the game, and instead makes you just fight a regular final boss. And with that, we gotta get into, of course, the boss fights. Now, thankfully in this game, they got rid of the whole running through an entire boss, you know, while you're hating your life. And instead, they opt for more grandiose versions of what you would call classic Sonic fights. You know, you would have him in a bit of an arena, and you'd get into a fight that I still think was challenging, but mostly fair, even though there were some frustrating ones. General is sort of like, you know, the Metal Sonic of the game, where, you know, he shows up every few zones, fights you a little bit, and his fights aren't too challenging. He always comes with a little new upgrade to his arsenal, but the fights are fun. There's nothing too crazy about him. You get a few hits on him, easy hits with, you know, you or Tails are your partner, and I like those. I like those mini fights with him. As for Eggman himself, pretty solid. You know, the Route 99 one's pretty fun, where you're just swinging the hammer back and forth. You gotta hit it. Sunset Hills fight is pretty simple, where you're just kind of knocking Eggman as he's rolling around this bigger map. It's nothing crazy, but it's fun. The old bases one isn't too bad either. You kind of just have to go under Eggman's legs, pause, and just hit him from under there a bunch. Again, nothing stands out too much, but it's a fun, simple boss that doesn't drive you crazy, at least. Toy Kingdom one, though, can suck my dick, right? You're fighting Eggman. He's in this little box. You gotta wait for him to get out of the box to hit him, right? And he's just slowly inches off every hit. And every time you gotta wait for him to drop 3 soldiers on you, a nuke on you, General pops up. Like, there's always something. But again, it's easy to collect back your ring for it, but it goes on too long. The Snow Levels boss isn't too bad either. You're kind of just, you know, waiting for him to come hit you. And you gotta drop these platforms on him, which I thought was pretty clever. Again, nothing is too blatantly difficult about these, and they're creative. I do find it's fun that, like, they're sort of grandiose versions of original Sonic Trilogy bosses. Even the final boss, honestly, isn't frustrating at all. In fact, you can cheese the shit out of it with Tails. But also, like, climbing Eggman's, like, mech hands is really fun just to get some attacks in on him. Look, I really like this fight. I thought it was a really cool final boss, and it had some cool aesthetic, you know, with the Master Emerald popping up there. If you get all the Chaos Emeralds, you get the Super Sonic version of the fight, which I will say in this game looks way cooler. You get the gang all showing up. General tries to rob you. You know, he gets his own super form. You go fight him. But what's cool is actually, instead of using your partners in the game, you use Eggman and you toss him on General, which I thought was pretty clever. You know, you go the whole game using the different partners. So using Eggman to help you at the end, I thought was pretty cool. And also the special stages, you're sort of flying around with Tails on a bonus jet. It's fine. It's whatever. Again, they could be frustrating, but they could also be fun. But the pixel art and style is just so nice in this game, and everything just looks visually appealing in the game, which is why I like so much about it. It's just such a visually appealing game from the character sprites especially. Music in this game fire. Route 99 song, I really enjoy it. Sunset Hill is a pretty good remix of the original theme. I get that. I like it. Ocean Base. Toy Kingdoms I'm not a fan of, bro. It's a little too goofy for me, but not in like a standout way. Cybertrucks is such a vibe out there. I see you. Ooh. Cybertruck, I do think it's kind of cool. But yeah, that's Sonic Advance 3. Man, I'm kind of disappointed, man, because I felt like going into Sonic Advance 3, I was ready for the most grandiose, most fun of the trilogy. But I ended up playing one which aesthetically was really cool, you know, in terms of the levels, in terms of, you know, having obviously the different character sprites and beautiful animations together and different combos. I thought that was all going to mesh so well, but instead you get levels that are so focused on platforming, you know, which isn't bad, but it's not Sonic. You know, I feel like with Sonic, the platforming moments and moment to moment are meant to be short, but when you're doing it the whole level, it's frustrating. When you got the things that try to crush you constantly, it's frustrating. Just, it felt like this game was fighting against you, and I didn't think they needed 3 acts for these. I felt like 2 zones and a boss would have been enough. It's cool again that they have 3 acts, but man, I wish, you know, the level design was great enough, you know, to justify it. So was definitely disappointed with Sonic Advance 3, which hurt a little bit, but again, partner system is cool, bosses are really cool, Supersonic's really cool, and I like a lot about it, man. And that is the Sonic Advance trilogy. If I was to rank them, I would obviously say for me, Sonic Advance 2, even if the bosses were infuriating, Sonic Advance 1 for its simplicity and fun, and then on the bottom, Sonic Advance 3, which again, I enjoyed in some moments, but I was definitely more frustrated than I was having a good time. But obviously, the point stands, right? What about these games, right? Should they come back? What should they do to them? Again, I think these games could easily have just a collection. Just give them a nice remaster collection, make them widescreen, you know, HDify them. I think this game would greatly benefit also from some rewinds, you know, some infinite live stuff to make stuff easier for people. Obviously, do stuff like save states, but for the most part, I don't even think they have to do too much to these games because they control super well. They age super well. The music is so good. There's a lot of extras, including, you know, mini Chao Gardens in there and time attacks. Like, I don't even think they need to do too much for an upscaled remaster of these. You know, add some achievements in there for people to collect, make it a little easier to collect the Chaos Emeralds. I feel like that's definitely a frustrating part of the game for a lot of people, including myself, which is why I didn't want to do it for any of them. But yeah, for the most part, man, I really love this trilogy. I think it's worth remembering. You know, it was so nostalgic because I grew up and I remember my dad or someone I knew had like a hacked GBA cartridge that he gave me, right? And it had all 3 of the Sonic Advance games in there. I don't know how or what device that is, but I had that. That's how I played those games. It was very weird to me. But at the time, I loved those games and I grew up with them, including Sonic Flash, you know, that game that was based on, you know, Sonic Advance, which is such a big part of my childhood. But yeah, no, a big part of my childhood. This trilogy deserves to be remembered. I don't think they stand out as much as the original 3 Sonic games, but I will say in their own way, they're really good. You know, they're these fun pocket-sized versions of Sonic game with the style of modern Sonic, which is what I want to see today. You know, I want to see a modern Sonic game with as many playable characters as this and throw in more, you know, and give me just character styling, you know, give me some personality, give me some standout levels. I love the idea of Sonic Advance. I think they're not perfect, but they're so fun, and it's a reason why people just have such nostalgia for them. Even if they're not like the craziest thing, there's just a joy to thinking about these games. And even now, like, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to replay these games, you know, once they eventually drop on, hopefully in some service. Come on, let people play these things because they're not really accessible. Obviously, GBA emulators are a dime a dozen, but give me a nice official way to play these. They deserve to be remembered. All right, but yeah, that's it for my first video essay style thing, whatever you want to call it. Let me know, did you like it? Do you want to see more from me? I'm probably gonna get better at these over time, but just bear with me for now. But yeah, that's my experience. Let me know what you all think, and let me know if you enjoy. And of course, I will see you all next time. Peace out, Sonic Gang. Whoa!